Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business podcast. All right, exciting news with 420 coming up. Chuck Schumer introducing a bill for federal legalization. To talk about this and more is Katrina Glogowski, angel attorney and investor. Thanks for being on the Talking Hedge.
Thanks, Josh.
So we are going to go into another podcast talking about how Idaho is jumping into Oregon to buy cannabis. So you're going to have to come back to that story. But what we want to talk about today, Chuck Schumer taking advantage of 420 in style by possibly bringing in a federal bill to legalize cannabis at the federal level. So again, I don't expect Biden to sign this, but it is interesting nonetheless that we're seeing this kind of progress after the elections with the speculation. But are we going to actually see some action?
First and foremost, the mere introduction of the bill is huge, signaling normalization. With the great majority of states now dealing with cannabis in one way, shape, or form, it's about time. Whether it can get through the Senate with such a tight voting margin there, I don't know. But the mere introduction of it in and of itself is huge. And if it passes, it's going to do good things and bad things. But let's see. We can only see what happens with a bill.
That's right. Yeah, so some good stuff could happen with that. Obviously, just the acknowledgement, like you said, it's a historical moment when it's introduced, right? So you normally would have something on and you would vote for it at the federal level. This is interesting because it's there hasn't been a lot of states, like Virginia, for example, that kind of had the Senate bring this. Rather, you'd have years and years of people going out and signing up for it and then finally voting. You're seeing it happen a lot faster, a lot quicker. And so I think we're starting to see the need for federal legalization rather than after 36% of the states have some sort of regulated marketplace. The feds understand that they're not getting the full tax dollars they could. Might as well legalize it at some point. So I don't know how much longer they're going to wait. With 36% on board already, seems like it's already there. Just maybe 10, 20 years ago, a third of the nation was on board. Now you have 2/3 of the U.S. population approving cannabis at some degree. Not really sure how much longer they can hold out.
I don't understand the delay myself, given the fact that they're losing the tax revenue. They're spending money hand over fist right now in response to the pandemic. You'd think that the federal government wants to find a way to fund some of those measures. So I'm really surprised that Biden didn't make this more of a priority, if only for the federal income that it would generate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like they're going to have a lot of revenue opportunities for this. They're not going to be able to stop the momentum that's already happened. And yet at the same time, there's obvious priorities in this administration that don't have cannabis anywhere close to it. I find it interesting with campaign promises versus reality, and how the Biden administration was saying that, they weren't going to continue to build the wall, and yet you still have eminent domain where they're taking property. And he was adamant about that, just like he was adamant about paying $2,000 checks that never arrived. So I don't think anything's going to happen with cannabis. I think he's on his own agenda. I've mentioned that before. I don't think you'll see cannabis being legalized in the next 3 years. It'll be after the 2024 election, in my opinion. I just don't see him prioritizing this. I see Biden's constituents being corporate America, big pharma, very much, he's from Delaware, so he's got credit cards and banks in his back pocket. They're the only ones that propped him up his whole career. So if you're expecting him to help the individual and not the corporations, you don't understand bureaucrats and how he got elected. So what he said and what he's doing is night and day. The reality is we're not going to see anything happen with cannabis in the next 3 years, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, Josh. And I hope that the state representatives and congressmen and senators apply pressure to get this done. It needs to be done, and it needs to be done soon. You have cross-border stuff, you have regulation stuff, you have taxation stuff, you have banking stuff, you have criminal stuff, all sorts of stuff that needs to be addressed and can only be addressed by federal legalization. And so while Biden may not want it, hopefully individuals like Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, among others, can get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be good. There's a lot of other interesting things coming out around the country. New York, they've got a really lenient restrictions, I guess. So you can, just like Canada, you can smoke anywhere you want. You can give flower to any adult. All of these kind of open rules. So I really like that. Just kind of open it wide up. Hopefully that's what the federal rules will look like, is something kind of similar to Canada, where it's treated just like tobacco and you can smoke it anywhere. That would actually further for cannabis cafes, rather than the hindrance that we have right now. There's a lot of restrictions. Whereas if you just open it up, it would immediately force a lot of municipalities, cities, states to open up and allow for that to kind of get it off the street. So I'm all for it. Just got to kind of go back to the talking hedge and find out what actually happens with that. We're going to roll this one up. I want to thank Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the Talking Hedge.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.